Is the world a more violent place now than at the start of this century? A question that, unfortunately, finds its answer in the affirmative. We find ourselves in an era that is witnessing an alarming rise in global conflicts and violence, a stark contrast to the hopes of peace and unity that mark the dawn of the 21st century. Researchers from the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, a reputable Swedish project, warn us of a grim reality. By the end of 2023, we are expected to face at least 8 major wars, along with dozens of armed conflicts over territories or governments. Among the most devastating of these conflicts are the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The former has been a scene of relentless violence, accumulating thousands of deaths since October 7th, while the latter continues to escalate, marking its second year in February 2024. But these are not isolated incidents. Other parts of the world, including Burkina Faso, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Myanmar, Nigeria, and Syria, are also caught in the throes of large-scale armed conflicts. The statistics are disheartening. According to Magnus Oberg, director of the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, combat-related deaths increased by 97% in 2022 alone, with a rise of over 400% since the beginning of the 2000s. This warning echoes the sentiments of Paul B. Stairs, head of the Center for Preventive Action at the Council on Foreign Relations. The research group, based in Washington, USA, maps global conflicts, providing a comprehensive overview of the world's volatile state. With the onset of chaos, one cannot help but wonder what led us to this state of affray. Burkina Faso, a country in the heart of the Sahel region, is caught in a violent war. Situated in North Africa, Burkina Faso is a key player in a wider conflict that involves regions of 10 nations. The war here is the most violent segment of this broader armed conflict. Since 2016, the nation has seen a surge in violent clashes between its government forces and insurgent Islamic groups. 2 particularly active groups are Ansarul Islam, which has links to Al-Qaeda, and the Islamic State in the Sahel, commonly known as ISS. These groups, among others, have turned Burkina Faso into their battleground, significantly contributing to the overall conflict in the Sahel region. This war, like many others around the globe, is a complex and multifaceted issue, with its roots deeply entwined in political, religious, and socio-economic tensions. As we delve deeper into these conflicts, it becomes clear that each war carries its unique set of complexities and challenges, all contributing to a global surge in violence. The war in Burkina Faso is a grim testament to the escalating violence in the world. In Somalia, a civil war has intensified, giving rise to an alarming crisis. The heart of this unrest lies with the rise of Al-Shabaab, a militant group that swears allegiance to Al-Qaeda. As the group gained power in the early 2000s, the civil war in Somalia surged, bringing with it a wave of destruction and despair. Al-Shabaab's primary goal has been to overthrow the Western-backed local government, aiming to replace it with a regime founded on their radical interpretation of Islamic law. This objective has fueled a relentless battle against government forces, who are bolstered by the support of the African Union. This internal struggle has not only intensified the civil war, but has also plunged the nation into a state of perpetual uncertainty. The civilians bear the brunt of this conflict, living under the constant threat of violence and instability. The struggle for power in Somalia reveals the brutal reality of modern warfare. Sudan, a country in the grips of an unimaginable humanitarian crisis. Sudan, once a beacon of rich African culture and a cradle of ancient civilization, now finds itself in the throes of a devastating conflict. The Sudanese military and a rebellious paramilitary group are locked in a bitter power struggle, tearing the nation apart brick by brick, life by life. In just half a year, this war has claimed the lives of up to 9,000 people. It's a staggering toll that continues to rise with each passing day. Behind these numbers are real people. Mothers, fathers, children caught in the crossfire of a war they did not choose. The United Nations describes the situation as one of the worst humanitarian nightmares in recent history. People are being displaced from their homes, their lives uprooted. The basic necessities of life, food, water, shelter, are becoming increasingly scarce, pushing the nation to the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe. The crisis in Sudan is not just about the power struggle between 2 factions, it's about the human cost of conflict. The suffering of the Sudanese people, their strength and their resilience should serve as a stark reminder of the dire consequences of war. Sudan's crisis paints a somber picture of the human cost of conflict. Myanmar, a nation grappling with the aftermath of a military coup. The Southeast Asian country has been in a state of turmoil since the military seized power in 2021. This power grab, a violation of democratic principles, was met with widespread protest. However, these cries for justice were met with brutal repression, leading to an escalation of violence that has shaken the country to its core. Independent researchers, cited by the United Nations, report that over 13,000 children have tragically lost their lives, while an astounding 1.3 million people have been displaced from their homes. The unrest in Myanmar isn't just a political crisis. It's a human tragedy that has left deep scars on the country's social fabric. The situation in Myanmar serves as a chilling reminder of the devastating effects of political unrest. Nigeria and Syria, two nations on the brink of war. Nigeria and Syria, both steeped in their own internal conflicts, are teetering on the edge of a precipice. Their battles, though separate in nature and geography, are alarmingly close to crossing the threshold into full-scale wars. Let's start with Nigeria. This West African nation is embroiled in an ongoing battle against insurgency. The persistence of this conflict has pushed the country to the edge, with the death toll creeping dangerously close to the 1,000 mark. Should this grim milestone be reached, Nigeria's conflict would officially be classified as a war according to the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, an authority in conflict analysis. Moving eastwards to Syria, a similar narrative unfolds. This Middle Eastern nation, already devastated by years of civil war, now faces a fresh surge in violence. Like Nigeria, Syria's internal conflict is also on the cusp of being reclassified as a war, with the death toll inching ever closer to the 1,000 mark. Therese Pedersen, coordinator of the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, has stated that both Nigeria and Syria are just below this threshold based on preliminary data, but are very likely to be included in the final list of wars. This paints a sobering picture of the state of conflict in our world today, and the tensions don't stop there. Other nations, such as Pakistan, are also showing signs of possible escalation in conflict in the coming months. This potential for increased global conflict raises a red flag, signaling that our world is becoming a more violent place. The impending wars in Nigeria and Syria underscore the critical state of world peace. As we watch these nations teeter on the brink, we're reminded of the urgent need for diplomacy, dialogue, and a commitment to peace. The world watches and waits, hoping for resolution rather than escalation. As we reflect on these conflicts, one thing is clear: the world has become a more violent place than at the beginning of this century, with an alarming increase in armed conflicts and wars. By the end of 2023, researchers anticipate at least 8 major wars, alongside dozens of territorial or governmental disputes. In the heart of these conflicts are the devastating wars in Burkina Faso, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Myanmar, Nigeria, and Syria, not to mention the Israel-Hamas war in the Gaza Strip, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Each of these conflicts has its unique triggers and complexities, but they all share a common thread: a tragic human cost. The war in Burkina Faso, part of a wider conflict in the Sahel region, and the civil war in Somalia, both involve violent clashes with insurgent Islamic groups. Sudan faces an unimaginable humanitarian crisis due to a clash between the Sudanese military and a paramilitary group. In Myanmar, a military coup and the subsequent repression of protesters have led to escalating violence. Nigeria and Syria, though not officially classified as wars yet, are on the brink, with internal conflicts nearing 1,000 combat deaths. These conflicts have seen a shocking increase in combat-related deaths, up by 97% in 2022 alone. Over the span of this century, the rise has been over 400%. The loss of life, displacement of people, and the immense suffering these wars inflict are truly heart-wrenching. The sobering reality is that our world, our shared home, is in turmoil. The lives of innocent people are being disrupted, and futures are being stolen away. These are not just statistics on a page, but real people with real lives, hopes, and dreams. As we look to the future, the question remains: how can we navigate these turbulent times to achieve a more peaceful world?